Hello friends, family, world. Luke here with another video. For those of you unfamiliar with our channel, my husband Tyler and I make weekly travel videos documenting our experiences since moving from North America to the UK. If you haven't been following along on our current series, our Eurotrip 2019 playlist features episodes documenting our travels from Switzerland, Austria, Paris, the Faroe Islands, and more. So if you'd like to see that, click on the little I on the top right of the screen, click on Eurotrip 2019 playlist, and click on episode 1 to start from the beginning. Also be sure to check out our blog at lukeandtyler.com, where we post more detailed itineraries as well as more of Tyler's photography. From where we last left off, we had one more night in Salzburg, Austria. We had booked a car rental with the plan of visiting the beautiful Zell Am See region of Austria, but unfortunately the weather was not on our side. We picked up the car and started our route, but quickly found out that we were not going to have the best experience because roads were closed due to flooding, there was increased fog that was really impacting visibility. So after talking about it, we decided to change course and did some last-minute planning and research, determining that the best use of our time was actually to go to the nearby Munich, Germany area and do some activities that weren't quite as weather dependent. The first thing we did was we drove up to Dachau concentration camp, where we found the dreary weather really matched how solemn, sad, and horrific the events that occurred here were. While I could hardly call visiting this site fun, given how heartbreaking the atrocities that occurred here were, we are really glad that we took the time to visit here and think it's one of those places that everyone should visit at one point in their life, just to remind themselves how horrible the events that happened here were, and to reinforce to us how important it is to do what we can to prevent things like this happening in the future. It's one thing to learn about it in a history book, it's another to see these places in person, read and hear the accounts of people who were imprisoned here, and see some of the horrifying photo and video footage. Tyler wrote a great blog post about it, as well as some of the history of some of the events that occurred there, so be sure to check out our blog post, which I'll post in the description box below. After this, we headed south to Nymphenburg Palace. In its heyday, this was the summer home of the Bavarian royal family. The architecture here was stunning. We enjoyed appreciating the beautiful architecture and interiors of the palace, as well as meandering around through the beautifully curated gardens surrounding the palace. After this, we returned the rental car and returned to our hostel. The next morning, we left Salzburg and took the train down to the state of Upper Austria for our next main destination, Hallstatt. Hallstatt is a really picturesque little town right on a beautiful lake. We found it a bit more popular and touristy than we would have liked, so we opted to stay in the nearby town of Obertraun, where the prices were a bit cheaper and there were fewer crowds to contend with. Obertraun also happens to be situated more closely to the main train station than Hallstatt was, so that was a nice bonus as well. Upon arriving in Obertraun and dropping off our bags, we took a water taxi over to Hallstatt. This is a really pleasant and enjoyable water taxi ride, and is something we encourage you to do even if you are just staying in Hallstatt, as it's a great way to appreciate the views, particularly on a nice sunny day. We spent some time walking around Hallstatt, appreciating the little nooks and crannies of the town, lots of cute historical buildings, and even a waterfall in the middle of town, randomly enough. We took the local bus back to Obertraun and took it easy the rest of the evening. The next morning, we had initially planned on hiking up the mountain from Hallstatt and heading to the Dachstein Ice Caves in the afternoon. However, the weather was quite rainy and foggy with little to no visibility. So we opted not to do the hike. We had a bit of a lazy morning waiting for the weather to hopefully clear a bit and ended up deciding to go up to the ice caves in the afternoon. The ice cave tour here was a bit different than the previous ice cave tour that we did at Eisliesenwelt, in that it was a bit more of a production, better lighting. Do keep in mind though that it was a bit more kid orientated, where they have really dramatic lighting, dramatic music, and even this animatronic grizzly bear. Even though it was a bit more over the top, it was still a fun experience, and with the better lighting, we found that we were able to get better photos and videos than we were at Eisliesenwelt. So at the end of the day, we found both ice caves had their own unique aspects that made them both worthwhile visiting. The weather really didn't improve much over the course of the day after our ice cave experience, and so we ended up taking the rest of the day pretty low-key. Though if we were to return to the area in sunnier circumstances, we would have checked out what's called the Five-Finger Viewing Platform, which apparently gives you great views of the surrounding valley. Alright guys, that is it for this video. If you haven't already, be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. And stay tuned for our next video, where we go to the Austrian region of Styria, which includes some of the less visited hidden gems of Austria that include Admont, Gesausi National Park, and Graz. See you then. Bye.